Hey, what is up, nation? In this session, I'm going to be teaching you how to get 2D elevations out of Sketchup. We have this row home here, and we want to get a 2D drawing of this front facade. Now, I've imported this, and it's located orthogonally, so it's pretty easy. If you have a bunch of stuff modeled in here, like if I had both sides of the street, you would need to cut a section. We don't need to do that for this, so I'm not going to show how to do that. But what you need to do to get to 2D from 3D or perspective in SketchUp is you go to Camera, and then under here it says Parallel Projection. So you just want to click that. And you can see everything is parallel projected, and this line is parallel to this one, is parallel to that one. So this is parallel projection, and then to get your front view, what you need to do is go to Camera, Standard Views, and then we're going to select Front. Because of the way that we located this, it turns out that this is the front view, but you may need to choose back or right or left or right for an elevation. Now, once you're in here, you can see there's a lot of information, but it kind of gets muddied a little bit because there's a bunch of extra lines. So you can change the style. If we come into our style here, I'm just going to keep it that and edit. You can obviously go through any of these styles, build your own. We're just going to edit the existing one. We're going to turn off the sky. That makes it so that if we export this, we can export as a PNG with a transparent background. So if we want to add anything else in post-processing in Photoshop or whatever, we can do that. So that's what turning these off helps with. If I come over here to the edge settings, I can turn off edges. I can turn off profiles. Now this looks kind of washed out, but I like this view because what I'm going to end up doing is adding shadows, and that really helps define the depth instead of the lines defining the shapes. So I like to have the light do that. It's a personal preference. Style, I like to have shading with textures, but obviously you can change it to whatever you want. And then here we already talked about that. Watermarks, if you want to put a watermark on there, you can do that. And then here I like to turn off the model axes. There's a line that you may or may not have been able to see that I just turned off. So yeah, it looks like my lines maybe turned off, edges turned back on. So, and then you just click this update style with changes, and you're good to go. Now, if for whatever reason you don't have this, just go to Window, Default Tray, show, this will say Show Hide Tray. You just click that, and then, or Show Tray instead of Hide Tray. And then in shadows, you'll see over here there's just this little button you click to enable shadows. And this will take a little bit of time, but you can see we get a nice angle across here. You can see the stepping and the steps, so you get a little bit of depth there. And then if you want more dramatic shadows, you want to pick a winter month. So D is December, so if I wanted more dramatic shadows, that I would pick that because the sun is lower in the sky, which means longer shadows. If you want less shadows, or it's good to pick a summer month because the sun is higher, so the shadows are shorter. So I'm just going to go sort of a middle ground in a spring or fall, and then mess around with the sun here. I want to get a little bit of depth of this to show that this thing juts out, and get some definition in the doors as well. So you can see this is way too much. Just going to go back a little bit, maybe a little bit of overlap in the doors. It's too far. And then I think this angle is maybe too steep, so let's go shorter. So changing to that winter month, you can see I get a less steep angle of that shadow. And I like how this looks. So there's that, and then there's stuff going on in the background, which is a little too much for me, so I'm going to add fog to this, which is basically sort of like your view depth. So if you go to View, you can enable fog here, and then you can edit this. You can see everything is sort of like has in a haze now. What I need to do is go to Window, Default Tray, and hit Fog, and then you'll have an option for fog here, so you can either display or stop showing the fog. And then your distance here, this is your front distance where the fog starts, and then this is your back distance. So we can just find the sweet spot here. So you can see the back starts to fade. So we want to sort of go about here, and we want it to be really crisp until you get to that point. So a very shallow depth of our fog. That's probably good. Yeah, so that is that, and then you can go to File, Export, and choose a 2D graphic to export this. You want to also make sure, because sometimes this happens, you want to go to Scenes, hit the plus here, and that will save your scene. So it saves all the settings in your scene if you have all of these checked. And then you can always rename this. You just click on that scene, type front elevation, and then if I wanted to make another elevation, let's say I go to left, standard left, I don't see anything, just zoom out a little bit, or click this zoom extents, and that'll get to me to what I want to see. This is dark, but you can always change the shadows in here. So if I change the time of day, you can see I get better shadows that show a little bit more depth. Go back to the scenes, click that, little plus, it'll take a few seconds. This will be a side elevation. Because it's a row home, the other side doesn't really, I don't see anything. And maybe, even to change this color here, instead of it being brick, let's change it to color black or something, so it's a poche instead of a just brick. So that's a little bit more dynamic, and not just brick, because that's confusing in a lot of ways. So you just sort of focus on what's going on architecturally. Right click, update scene. It'll ask you what you want to update. You can do that, and then it'll take a little bit, and then you can toggle between your two elevations. You can see there's a little bit of an animation going on between them, which is causing a little bit of lag. So if you want to disable that so it's quicker, you can go to Window, Model Info, and there's a thing in here called Animation. You can disable scene transitions. Just check that, and now you'll just very quickly go between the front and side elevation without having to deal with that animation slowing down your computer. So it still takes a little bit, but you don't have to worry about the animation. Hopefully this video helped. If you like this video, please don't forget to like, subscribe, and share this video with your friends. And as always, happy hacking.
All right, designers, just because this episode of Designer Hacks is over doesn't mean we're leaving you out in the cold. Tony's got tons of great content available at designerhacks.com. So join Design Nation right now, and we'll see you on the next episode of Designer Hacks.